Q in West Ashley, and this for the next hour is the Head Coach Mike Houston radio show. Thanks for being with us. We have a full house and a lot of folks who are here to talk and listen about Citadel football after the Bulldogs' victory on Saturday at Samford. The Bulldogs are still in first place in the league. And it seems to me like there was a poll that came out before the season started that had a 7 next to the Bulldogs' name. So that's not looking too good right now anyway.
Well, we still got a long ways to go, but certainly we're playing well right now and really excited with the big win on Saturday, and set ourselves up pretty good going into this week. So it's a lot of excitement around the program right now.
No doubt about it, and it is Furman week, so that will only intensify as the week goes along. Bulldogs get the victory over Samford on Saturday. We're going to recap that game after we go to our first break and talk at length about what went on in that game and how the Bulldogs came out of it with a victory of 44-25 on the road at Samford. So that is all still to come in the program as well. Lots of things to talk about. The Dogs have the Defensive Player of the Week in the league. And they have same young man, Dee Delaney, who is now on the watch list for the FCS National Defensive Player of the Year. That was just announced today. And so the accolades are starting to come Dee Delaney's way, Coach, and he has certainly put up some of the numbers and the plays on the field that would warrant that.
Yeah, and he's still young and he's still learning and gaining experience. That's the exciting thing about it. Now, he made some huge plays for us Saturday, and his stat line was very good. And at the same time, he made some mistakes Saturday that were very costly. So this is one of those tricky weeks where he's getting a lot of attention because of the positive plays that he made and the impactful plays that he made. And then we're on his rear end about some of the plays he gave up Saturday. So he's had a coming up and down week as far as that goes.
Well, and I think particularly with a player of his age, that's probably not a bad thing.
No, and it's really what you're going through a lot with our entire roster right now is learning how to handle success, and it's very hard. It's very hard to teach. It's very hard to work with and work through, and it's just something I keep trying to beat the same message into them. It's just like this week. We can't worry about anything that happened behind us. We can't worry about anything that's ahead of us other than Furman. And so I'm trying to just beat into them this game and looking at nothing else. And so I think we've been able to do that, throughout the beginning of this week.
Obviously, as the week goes along, or as the show goes along, rather, we want to talk about the team that is up next for the Bulldogs, the Furman Paladins. We'll talk a little bit about last year's ball game. We'll talk about the things that surround this week's game as well. Got a lot of good folks in the house this evening. And so we're happy to have all of those folks in the house with us today. But also wanted to say hello to Coach Daniel Willis and his family. They're in the back there from Citadel Basketball. And want to remind you that their season tickets are available by calling 953-DOGS. 953-DOGS. I saw a funny video today with Coach Balkum that had the players practicing behind him. And they probably wouldn't want you to know that it was sped up, but it was sped up. So it was a funny ad.
It's definitely going to be a different pace.
Definitely will be a different pace. And so that was kind of neat. And so good to see everybody here this evening. We're going to take our first break of the show, come back, and we will dig in for the Samford ball game, the game on the road in Birmingham, and talk about all that went into that for the Citadel Bulldogs when we come back in just a moment. This is the Coach Mike Houston radio show from Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley on Sports Radio 1450.
Style, selection, service, quality, value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
Welcome back to Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue and the Mike Houston Radio Show, live and in person, not only here and on the radio, but on YouTube live streaming as well. We've got some questions for Coach that have been emailed or written down somewhere that we'll get to those coming up in just a little bit. But we wanted to go through the ball game that was just played at Samford and talk about how the Citadel Bulldogs came away with the victory at Samford. So let us begin and talk about how this one went down. First of all, Citadel gets the ball to start the ball game, punt. Samford does the same, and so you're kind of feeling each other out after a couple of possessions. But then the Bulldogs, the Citadel Bulldogs, get the ball at their own 42, all runs for the next 6 plays, 58 yards, 2 minutes, 31 seconds, and the Dogs are on the board with a Dominique Allen touchdown.
They came out, I thought they played very, very hard that first series. I really thought like just our physicality on the offensive line started to really show in that second drive. And, you know, they misfit some things, and we were able to take advantage of that and, you know, have a really solid drive there. And, of course, it started with good field position, which came off of, you know, a
Defense getting off the field quickly. Mission accomplished right there.
Well, we got off quickly, but I'm telling you, the pace that they go out on offense is the fastest I've seen in several years. And, you know, you look back at Coach Hatcher, where he's connected to with Mike Leach and Hal Mummy. And we've faced coaches from that tree before. But it's been a while since we've seen one. But just it was a reminder just back to just how fast those guys try to go on offense, which is great when it's clicking. But when you're 3 and out, that's not a real good thing.
That's
because
right.
You know, you look up and we have a 6-minute drive or something like that. They have it for a minute and a half. Then we keep it for another 6 or 7 minutes. I mean, that can really have a negative effect on you. You know, your defense and your momentum on offense.
Certainly not sustainable, that's for sure.
Right.
They spot the football, and they're right back over the top of it. I mean, so they're ready to go there. The Citadel gets the ball back, but then it results in a punt. Samford then goes on a 99-yard drive. You had him pinned all the way back at the 1-yard line.
I really thought we had the safety on the first play.
So did I.
We thought that the ball carrier did not break the plane of the goal line, trying to get out right there, and I thought Tevin was going to get a safety there on the first snap of that drive. But, you know, it was spotted on the 1-inch line, but then they were able to convert and get some breathing room and really had a nice drive.
Yeah, it went 2 minutes and 53 seconds. Then Michael Eubank gets a 32-yard touchdown run. There's a guy who coming into the ballgame only had 4 net yards rushing. I'm sure you weren't necessarily expecting him to be the big runner for them.
No, but it was a mistake by us. I mean, we had our backside corner misfit. They got an unbalanced formation, and he misfit the run there, and he cut it out the back door and was able to score. So
Eubank makes it 7-7. Then something that you did on 2 occasions in the ball game was that when they scored, you came back very next drive and scored yourself. On this case, 25-yard line's where you started it. A 10-play drive, 75 yards in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Vinnie Miller with an 8-yard touchdown run, and you're up 14-7, and you've responded.
Yeah, and we've gotten the momentum back, which I thought was big at that point in the game because, you're facing a very good team, and if you don't yank that momentum back from them, they can easily – go out and get on another roll again. You find yourself in the hole, and you don't want to get in the hole against a team like that.
And then you built on it. They go 3 and out. You get the ball at your own 30-yard line, 8 plays, 70 yards, and 3:46. Isaiah Smith, the first of 3 rushing touchdowns. This one was from 31 yards out, and you're up 21-7.
Yeah, and really all week long I thought this would be an Isaiah Smith game because of the game plan that we had, what we thought we were going to get from them defensively. For us to run the fullback, it was going to be a very physical game between the tackles, especially in the A gaps right in there, and there's some subtle cuts that our fullbacks are going to have to make, which Isaiah is really has a talent for doing that, and so it was exciting to see him have a really solid game on Saturday.
Sanford comes back, responds. They got the ball at their own 25. They got the ball at their own 25 an awful lot in that game. That means you didn't give him a chance to return it.
Right. I thought Eric has done a great job all year with his kickoffs, and he was doing a great job on Saturday. So that's always great when you can take that weapon out of their hand, because they had two very dangerous returners,
including Hamilton, their wide receiver. They had only 2 kick returns all day for 41 yards. But Sanford, in that instance, I thought this was an interesting drive. They go 13 plays, 75. They bring big Michael Pierce into the game.
Yeah. Boy, I thought we were about to stop him. We stopped him on first and second down. We almost had him stop there on third down, but couldn't quite keep him out. But he is a load.
Yeah, I'm sure you gave them quite an eye-opener there, because it did take the third run to get him in the end zone. They make it 21-14 on the 1-yard run by Pierce. I don't think his brother was in the game at the same time.
No, he wasn't.
Was he? Okay.
No, he wasn't.
That would have been too good a story. Say he stops him, right before he gets in. But at that point, 21-14, Citadel get the ball at their own 25, and again, like you did the previous time, you come back and score.
Right, and that one, we were short on time, so we were a little bit more of a tempo speed right there, and trying to advance the ball down the field as quickly as we could and get another score before the half. And I thought had a couple of big plays in that drive through the air. One, the pass on the switch route to Vinnie Miller, and then the other on the halfback pass from Cam Jackson to Jorian Jordan, which really was executed well. So able to get some big yardage chunks right there with those 2 plays.
Those were back-to-back plays, 28 yards, 27 yards. Then Isaiah Smith punches it in from 1 yard out.
Yeah.
You're up 21-14. And again, second straight time that you countered a touchdown with a touchdown,
which was big. And we thought you're getting ready to go into the half, with that lead right there. But boy, we didn't expect to get the nice surprise we got when Sanford's next possession.
Yeah, you did. They started it from their own 25-yard line, and then a little bit later on, Mark Thomas, a strip sack. D. Delaney picks it up, runs it in from 25 yards out, and all of a sudden you're up 35-14.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you don't see, but we work that drill every Sunday night. We have a turnover circuit we have on Sunday nights for the defense, and Coach Tesh works the ball strip on sack and just really going for that backhand as you come through. And Mark did a great job of executing that. Got the ball out. Mitchell Jeter. I don't know if he meant to or not, but he was able to punch the ball away from a Sanford offensive lineman that was getting ready to fall on it. D was right there at the right spot at the right time, scooped it, and able to take it in for the score, which I thought was a huge momentum lift going into the half, and may have been the difference in the ball game.
Because it was 28-14, and they're going to get the ball to start the third quarter. So 35-14 had you in pretty good shape. So I'm sure that jog up to your locker room, and I understand it was a pretty good jog, a pretty lengthy jog, got you a 35-14 lead. It was a much happier trip to the locker room, I'm sure, at that point. Sanford gets the ball to start the third quarter. First drive of the third quarter, just an 18-yard drive before Delaney and an interception, and we really were, from where we got a good look at that, and just looked like he reeled him in and made him throw that ball, and was waiting for it.
Yeah, we were in a max drop deal right there. We rotate the coverage, and so it doesn't look pre-snap like that's what we're doing, but he was able to execute it perfectly, and we got a little bit of pressure from a 3-man rush on Eubank and forced the throw a little bit there. I think Mitchell was the one that got the pressure, and so a little bit of a forced throw there, and D made a very athletic play to get the ball back for us.
And you capitalize on it, too. You get the ball at Sanford's 48-yard line, 7 runs and 48 yards later, 3 minutes, 23 seconds later. Isaiah's got his third touchdown run of the night, a 9-yard run, and you're up 41-14 in a game that a lot of people, you included, probably everybody included, thought, man, this is going to be a dogfight today.
Yeah, and to be honest, I still didn't feel comfortable because they're so talented offensively. They have such big playability. You just never feel comfortable against that team because, you saw, I think it was the week before, one of the college games that was on, a West Coast game, and you had about a 28-point lead, and all of a sudden it evaporated on them. So you just know that one of those fast-paced teams, they can come back on you.
Now, at that point, Sanford gets the ball back. They do go down and get a field goal, but you see a new quarterback in the ball game. Surprised?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Eubank, obviously having a great year, but the backup number 8, he had played a good bit in the games leading up. When they got the game in hand or whatever, and we thought that he may be as good or possibly better than Eubank. He's just very, very young.
Yeah.
Very talented, very good runner. Ran much better than Eubank did. Obviously, their quarterback of the future. He's the one that Chris and his staff recruited. So we knew when he came into the ball game that this is not your typical backup. This kid's very talented, and he certainly came out and executed the offense very, very well.
We were told that he made the competition with Eubank much closer than many would think he did.
Right.
And so in comes Hodges. At that point, the field goal makes it 41-17. And then let's see, Sanford's able to score to make it 41-25. Again, they do so after you pin them deep. Everybody gets pretty excited. You pin them at the 1, pin them at the 2. Just so happens a couple of the scoring drives came from there.
Yeah, and that one right there was a little frustrating. I mean, it was a takeoff route down the sideline. D was in good position. Made a little bit of a fundamental error in the way he tried to play the ball, and unfortunately gave up a huge play, which gave them a lot of momentum right there. So and really, they're getting it back to where you certainly don't feel comfortable because there's a lot of time still left on the clock. So we needed to respond to that.
They only took a minute 28 to get the score. Made it 41-25. But again, you come back and you get points after they get points. You get a field goal to make it 44-25. Now, when exactly did you feel like maybe you had this one?
Probably when we went to victory formation after. I'm just telling you, that team, because you knew all the talent they had on offense, and you did not feel comfortable at any point in time. I mean, the whole last 5 minutes, I'm staring at my kill the clock sheet, just trying to see when can we get under the amount of time where I can kneel on it. And, we didn't really get there until we were able to draw them off sides on the punt formation there towards the end.
You got an interception from Nick Willis.
Yeah.
The 13-play drive from their own 17-yard line. They're driving to make it look like they were going to go in and make it very interesting, but then Willis gets the interception, and then that's when you got your victory formation.
Yeah, so that's kind of our tradition is every Friday night. That's what we end our walkthrough with is we line up in victory formation. And I tell them, we're preparing to go out and win on Saturday, and so it's always an enjoyable time when you're able to line up in that and take that last snap and kneel down on it.
Win on Saturday you did. 44-25 was the final score. The Citadel Bulldogs are 4-2. They're 3-0 in the league. And only Chattanooga has a record that equals that as the Bulldogs are set to play their second straight road game. It will be at Furman, a big-time rivalry for the Citadel Bulldogs, and we'll talk about that and many other things when we come back with the coach in just a couple of moments. We're at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley for the Mike Houston Radio Show on Sports. Back at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley at 7:24, and this is the Coach Mike Houston Radio Show. Welcome back. My name is Mike Legg, and the Citadel Bulldogs improved to 4-2 on the season. They go to 3-0 in Southern Conference play. Furman week this week. That, sir, draws a lot of emotion out of people, regardless of who you talk to. Is it the well, you've told me before that it is the opponent that everybody considers the chief rivalry, regardless of what's kind of going on here and there. But so I'm sure that there was a buzz anyway, but there's really a buzz when you have your next game coming up to take on Furman.
Yeah, and my introductory press conference a year and a half ago, I'm standing up at the podium, and I talk about our big rival VMI, and a group of alumni in the crowd quickly corrected me that Furman was our rival, not VMI. So certainly our alumni, this is an important game for them. It's an important game for the alumni at Furman. It's the 95th meeting between the two schools, the longest-running rivalry in the Southern Conference. And certainly there have been some memorable games over the years, and you've heard a lot of stories this week from alumni of different things dealing with the two schools and the rivalry itself. So it adds a lot of excitement around the game.
These two teams have played every year since 1919. Only the World War II years found these two teams not playing once in a year. So, and you're going to get, which I think is great, super to have this happen, you're going to have a little bit of an enhancement in your crowd on Saturday at Furman. Tell us about that.
Well, Captain Gino Peluso, who's our commandant, he started planning this, a while back to take the entire fourth class, which is our freshman class on campus, all of them up to Furman for the game. So there's 550 or so young cadets that are going to make the bus ride up Saturday morning and be there to cheer on the Bulldogs on Saturday. And we got word today that the visitor side at Furman is actually sold out for the game Saturday.
All
so
right.
We should have a large contingency of Citadel alumni and supporters and fans there besides the cadets.
That's awesome. Now, that's a lot of buses to get 500.
Yeah, I think 10 buses. 10 buses is what I heard. So I asked him today, I said, how are you going to feed them? So he went through his plan. He's got it all figured out.
Okay. That's going to be great. I look forward to it. The stadium over there seats 16,000, and the visitors' side is packed. And that is great news for the Bulldogs. More about Furman coming up in just a little bit from right now. First of all, just a couple of odds and ends. Tempo first. It looked like in the last two ball games for you from an offensive perspective,
right,
and particularly how the defense was kind of getting the ball back to your offense, it looks like you've hit your stride in terms of a speed at which you want to play, right?
And we really adjusted it a little bit throughout the game Saturday. And, when we get a good rhythm going, the thing is we do have the ability to speed it up, which what that does is that forces the opposing defense to keep their personnel on the field so they can't rotate, D linemen or whatever in. And the longer those guys are on the field, they really have a hard time, playing with our offensive line. They get fatigued. When they get fatigued, they're going to make mistakes. You make mistakes, that's when the big plays happen. So I thought that we were very effective of keeping the same group on the field there Saturday against Samford.
Couple of questions from our audience. One was emailed to me a little earlier on, so I'll go ahead and get those at you today. Last couple of ball games with leads in the late third, fourth quarter, the offense would still snap the football with time left on the play clock. Is that to not slow it down too much? I mean, another 10 seconds without snapping, or where does that fall? What do you think?
It just depends on the game plan. Really, we went into that game not planning on tempoing Samford. We actually were going to hold it till the last 5 seconds of the play clock, trying to keep their offense off the field. But then when we really found a rhythm and started having so much success, you didn't want to slow that rhythm down. When you get a good tempo going with this offense, and you can keep them in rhythm, it's like a well-oiled machine. So when the game really swung heavily our way, and we saw that we're able to do that, and the effect that it was having, we pushed the throttle a little bit more.
Second question that we had that came in to ask was, Speedy freshman Rod Johnson has not seen the field since the first game. Is he redshirting?
Unfortunately, he's probably going to end up having to redshirt because of an injury.
Okay.
And so I don't think that we're going to be able to get him back at any point in time this year. So, but the good thing is that gives him to us for the next 4 years. But he's going to be a very, very good player. And he's an outstanding young man. He's doing great in the classroom, and I hate that we're not able to have him out there on the field right now.
Gave you a little bit of a preview of him though in that first ball game, for sure.
Yeah. It was good to see him, be able to get out there and get a glimpse of what he's going to be able to do. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have him the rest of the year.
Bulldogs win at Samford, 44-25, the final score in the game on this past Saturday. So it's on to Furman now to take on the Paladins. And so that is going to be the interesting ball game, obviously. In the ball game at Samford, excuse me, you were +4 in the turnover ratio, which that'll win you a lot of ball games.
Yeah, and that the two things that stood out to me from the performance of our team was we had one penalty for 5 yards, and we forced 4 turnovers while having none on offense. So two of our big goals, which I think are critical to winning football games. You saw those kind of stand out there on Saturday, especially coming off of Wofford, where we had 11 penalties against Wofford, which is very uncharacteristic for our ball team. And so we really stressed it last week in practice. For them to go out and be able to execute and have 1 penalty on the day was a significant achievement.
You have a star system that you rank games on. You get a star if you win, star for time of possession, a star for winning the turnover battle, winning penalties, winning the kicking game. Was it a 5-star win on Saturday?
4 stars.
4 stars.
I couldn't give the special teams a star because technically we had 2 turnovers with the fake punt, which I'm kicking myself for. I'm sitting there and I'm talking to Coach Harrell on the headset. And I'm like, this is right the territory where they're going to fake one. I said, are we okay? Do you want to call timeout? Do we want to leave our defense out there? And that was my gut feeling. I didn't go with it, and it bit us in the rear end. And then we had the onside kick, which we were expecting, possibly a surprise onside, but they did a great job with execution. So we had 2 turnovers technically on the kicking game.
Okay.
So we had a 4-star game.
4-star game. That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
4 stars still pretty good. Now, we thought, wow, with the way you pinned them all night or all day, thought maybe you might go with 5. But I understand it's hard for the teacher to give the students 5 stars.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and especially when we talk about trying to gain extra possessions, because you really gave Samford 2 extra possessions there, where if you didn't give those to them, the score would have been, much wider of a margin of victory than it was.
So we mentioned that D. Delaney was the SoCon Defensive Player of the Week. He is also now on the watch list for the FCS National Defensive Player of the Year. Dominique Allen had a heck of a game with 166 yards, only 4 lost yards in the ball game. I believe you said in your press conference yesterday you thought that was his best game of the year.
Yeah, and I thought that was coming off of his best game of the year against Wofford. So I thought he did a great job Saturday with the checks to the line of scrimmage. We had a lot of things built into the game plan that that we'd really worked on all week, and he really went out and played almost flawless at the quarterback position, and really had us in the right play and executed it correctly the bulk of the day.
The Citadel Bulldogs are off to their first 3-0 start in Southern Conference play since 1992. That's a span of 23 years. That team went 11-2, won an outright SoCon championship by going 6-1. Ranked number 1 at one time for 4 weeks, actually, and advanced to the quarterfinal round of the FCS playoffs. So you're in very good company right now. Congratulations for that.
Well, we are, but that's good stuff for the alumni to talk about and things like that. We got to worry about Furman. So, certainly, at the beginning of the season when the polls came out and the other coaches in the league and the media picked us to finish 7th, I was pretty adamant that I didn't feel like that's what our team was, what we were. I thought we were much better than that. And certainly we've shown glimpses of that. And at the same time, we're sitting here 4-2. We're entering our 7th ball game, so we still got a lot of ball left to play in this season. But we have put ourselves in a good position at the a little past the halfway mark in the year.
We have dragged the coach into the past long enough, so we will in fact turn the page to Furman exclusively when we come back from the break. It's 7:34. This is the Coach Mike Houston radio show as we go to a timeout here from Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley on Sports Radio 1450.
There's more for you at Substation 2. Since 1975, Substation 2 has been serving sliced-to-order, freshly made subs on our specialty New York-style bread, piled high with the finest meats and freshest produce. From the number 19 Super Special with 7 mouth-watering meats and cheeses to an assortment of specialty sandwiches and salads. Substation 2 proudly supports the Citadel Bulldogs with 2 locations in Charleston and 43 locations throughout the Southeast.
Welcome back to Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley for the Coach Mike Houston radio show. My name is Mike Legg. We are a little over halfway home on the show. Lots to get to with the coach. Our audience has passed another question to us, and it comes at a perfect time because we're about to talk about the team that you are preparing for this weekend, Coach, the Furman Paladins. Question was, what is the process of scouting an opponent these days? The methods that you use, how far out you do it, all of the things that go into being prepared when it's time to play your next opponent.
Yeah, well, actually, in the Southern Conference, we have an open access policy. So we have access to every game that Furman's played. They have access to every game that we've played. We've got films, dating, back several years on Furman. So you have a lot to choose from. But our graduate assistants, the week before, they break down whatever games we want broken down for the next week's opponent. To the point that when I got on the bus after the Sanford game Saturday night, I was able to sit there and watch Furman's, previous however many games and cut-ups, and everything's already labeled and broken down. So by the time we got back to Charleston at 3 in the morning or whatever it was Sunday morning, I'd watched our game against Sanford, and I'd watched a significant amount of Furman film, so that when your meetings come Sunday afternoon, you've already got a start on Furman, because we actually practice for Furman on Sunday night. So a lot of work goes into that behind the scenes. I never have the coordinators. The coordinators never see any film of the team from the following week, because they've got to focus on the team in front of them, and neither do I, but our support people do.
Gotcha. Good stuff there. So not only did you have the opportunity to watch, you did watch, because, and I like the dedication. That's neat.
Well, you're sitting there on the bus anyway. You're not going to sleep after a game like Sanford, and the kids are. But I'm pretty wired after that one. If you win, you're wired, so you don't sleep. If you lose, you're so distraught you don't sleep. So either way, you're just sitting there on the bus on the way home. So
that's a tough one too, because that's a healthy little trip to make all at once.
It was a long way now. So
talk about your decision to go earlier than the day before the ball game.
Really, our players felt like that was a real asset to us, and so we planned these trips, way back in the spring. So last spring, Andy Clausen and I planned out the trips for this fall. And we felt like that, a couple of our trips that were very, very long, with the pace that our guys keep during the week, it was very important for us to, number one, try to get them as much rest as we could on Thursday night. And number two, to try to break up that long bus ride as much as we could. So as soon as practice was over last Thursday, we went and ate dinner in the dining hall and then got on the bus and drove to Augusta and stayed the night Thursday night in Augusta and then went the rest of the way on in Friday to Birmingham.
Okay, and that certainly looked like a good formula. Your guys looked fresh. There's no doubt about that when you got on the field on Saturday. So took care of business where that was concerned. So on to the next opponent, on to Furman. So as an overall scout, after you had a chance to watch them a little bit on the bus on Saturday, now that you've advanced the entire game plan, tell me what you think of those guys.
I think they are a very, very good football team. I think they're a team that's capable of winning the Southern Conference Championship. They come into the game with one conference loss to UT Chattanooga, who is the fifth-ranked team in the country. They have beaten an FBS team in University of Central Florida at Central Florida, which is a significant win for an FCS school. Their other losses came at the hands of Virginia Tech, which a lot of us would struggle against Virginia Tech. And then they've got wins against South Carolina State in a very bad weather game the weekend of all the heavy rains we had here in South Carolina, and then a tough, hard-fought win over VMI, who I think is playing very, very well. Played Chat very close this past weekend. So you look at them overall, and then Coastal Carolina, that was the other loss they had, and that's a game really I thought they should have won. They lost 38-35, very close game. Made a few mistakes late in the game, but really, moved the ball at will against Coastal Carolina in the opener. So I think this is a team that's a very talented team, and with everything going on around the game, it's their homecoming, the rivalry. I think it's going to be a game where we're going to have to go up there and probably play our best game of the year in order to have a chance to win and come back to Charleston.
Heck of a game last year, too.
Yeah.
It was 21-13 Furman after one, 28 all at halftime and after three, 35 apiece after regulation. In overtime, Aaron Miller carried the ball 6 times for 21 yards and a 2-yard score to give the Citadel a 42-35 lead. The Paladins, when your defense got back on the field, defense took care of business. They rushed for 1 yard, missed on 3 pass attempts to end the ball game, and you got that victory in overtime. Hard-fought ball game.
Yeah, but really it's those two teams last year versus these two teams this year. There's not a whole lot of comparison. Furman coming into the game was not having a very good year. They had a lot of injuries. We were still trying to learn each other, and certainly nothing close to the team that we are this year. So I think that may have been a battle between two teams on a different level than what you have in this matchup Saturday. Because I think that they're a very fine football team. I think we have a good football team. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game, and it's going to have a lot of excitement and drama around it for all the fans.
That's what rivalry games are all about, right? I mean, you wouldn't want it any other way for this one. Well, you might want it.
Oh, I'd love to know that we're going to go in there and get a huge win, but it's not going to be like that. So.
They are just a couple of years removed from a trip to the FCS playoffs. And as you mentioned, a very injury-riddled club a year ago, including their starting quarterback who got hurt in the very first ball game. And they played 2 other quarterbacks after that. But Reese Hannon is back.
And, boy, he is a good player now.
Yeah, tell me what kind of quarterback he is.
I kind of compared him to an Andrew Luck-style quarterback. He runs pretty good for a big guy, but he is a big, prototypical pocket quarterback. He can hurt you with his legs, but that's not his game. I mean, he has a very strong arm. He can make all the throws. He has a talented receiving core. So he's a guy that they're going to sit here and they run a pro style offense. They're going to be a downhill running game, a lot of 2-back, and then you're going to see a lot of play action, and then you're going to see some 5-step stuff. So he really is the key to their whole offense.
Some dangerous wide receivers too. Suttles has 23 catches already. That's not necessarily the guy who has the biggest name on their ball club either. So they have some good wide receivers with some speed outside.
Yeah, 3 and 1 are both very talented receivers. The tight end, 17, is an all-conference caliber player there. Very good receiver in his own. They have several running backs that not only are adept at running the football, but they're good receivers out of the backfield. So he's got a lot of targets.
You were asked in your press conference yesterday to speak of Furman's statistics offensively. They don't look all that great on paper, but you had a theory as to why that might be.
They played Virginia Tech, Central Florida, and Chattanooga. That's three pretty stout defenses. And South Carolina State's a quality FCS opponent. They've had a tough schedule to this point in the year, and I do think that's some of the what I attribute their stats to. But certainly, I think they're a very talented team. They've got a solid offensive line. So I think that we'll be tested defensively on Saturday by their offense.
63-37 in terms of passing yardage versus rushing yardage. From a play calling perspective, they're a little more run than pass, 53-47. Multiple on defense, but Corey Magwood, number 56, really stands out.
Good player there at linebacker, and a veteran guy, all conference player. And in that 4-3 scheme, he's the guy, and always running the action.
Carl Ryder wears 55, if my memory serves me correctly. Yep. Tackles for loss leader, guy who didn't play a year ago.
He was injured last year against us, and so certainly they're excited to have him back. And he's a kind of a lunch pail kind of guy, blue collar player, real tough kid. So certainly another good defender there.
I'm sure you can identify with Bruce Fowler. He is a former defensive coordinator turned head coach.
Yeah, and Coach Fowler and I go back to when he was at Vanderbilt, and actually had the opportunity to go visit with him when he was there, and he's always been very good to me in my career, and so certainly someone I have a lot of respect for.
He played at Furman. Was a defensive back there in the late 70s and spent some time on their staff, then went to Vanderbilt, now the head coach of that program. Offensive coordinator still the same, first-year defensive coordinator. Did that change anything?
I don't know yet. We don't know. I mean, it's, certainly Coach Fowler has a defensive background, so, like me, he's not going to leave him alone, so he's going to be over there in the room. He'll have some input. But you got a new defensive coordinator that we have not faced before, so there's some unknown there. Tim Sorrells, he goes back to, he was the offensive coordinator on Bobby Lamb's staffs. He recruited several of my players when I was a high school coach in Asheville, North Carolina. One of my guys was their starting tailback back in the early 2000s. And so I know Coach Sorrells very well, and he's a very, very good football coach, a veteran guy, and so and has been there for, I think, 28 years now. So, they've got a very solid staff.
This is a big ball game for both ball clubs. Furman's 3-3, 1-1. Coach mentioned some of their wins and losses. They opened the season 38-35, losing at home to Coastal Carolina, which has been number one in the polls. 42-3 loss at Virginia Tech in week 2. 16-15 upset win over FBS member Central Florida. They won that game on a 55-yard field goal, which was a school record field goal. But he kicked it with 12 minutes to go, and it held up.
Yeah, it did, and it's an interesting game to watch. I thought that's probably their best defensive game of the year. To this point, I know they held South Carolina State to 3 points, but that was in a kind of a bad weather game, which certainly would help your defense a little bit. But that performance against Central Florida was really an outstanding day for them.
The VMI win was 24-21. South Carolina State 17-3, and at 6th-ranked Chattanooga, 6th-ranked at the time, they're 5th-ranked now. A couple of weeks ago, a 31-3 defeat. They scored first, but not again. And something that I'm sure you would rather they didn't have after the Chattanooga game was a week in between your games.
Yep. So they've got 2 weeks to get ready for us, which is certainly an advantage for them, and another reason why I think that we've got a lot going against us going up there. But at any rate, on Saturday, it's it's going to, the things that are going to matter are going to be what happens between 1:30 and 4:30.
We kind of talked about this during your open date, but really, in terms of a number of days, how many extra days does that usually equate to when you have an off date?
Well, when you have an open date, it allows you to kind of get your legs back under you. It allows you to heal up if you got any bumps and bruises. The staff, it really gives you a chance to take a long look at your next opponent. And I think for teams facing us, it allows them to at least base install their game plan during the open week so that, the players are not seeing our schemes for the first time on Sunday night. It's almost like a review the second week. And so certainly you're more familiar and you're more comfortable with the game plan, when you have 2 weeks to prepare.
Furman is the next opponent. That's really all that needs to be said. That's
right.
all that really matters at this point. And people are ready to go once you say that.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting day. It's a 1:30 kickoff, so a little bit earlier kickoff for our guys. But I'm sure it's have a great facility, a really nice stadium, and it's going to be a great atmosphere with their homecoming and just with all the excitement between the two alumni bases. I think it'll be a lot of energy and juice in the stadium Saturday.
We'll go to break, come back with the last segment of the show in just a couple of moments. This is the Coach Mike Houston Radio Show on Sports Radio 1450.
I needed to deposit a check. I was about to head to the bank, but out of nowhere, it just started to rain. Like, really rain. I did not want to go out. But then I was like, duh, just use your phone. Mobile deposit techno thingy to the rescue. I'm Raina, and I bank human at TD Bank.
It's AmericanSportsNetwork.com. That's what it spells out to, AmericanSportsNetwork.com? AmericanSportsNet.com, NET.com. Got it. That puts it all together.
We will have about 8 minutes when we get back, so not long. Back at Fiery Ron's Home Team Barbecue in West Ashley for the Coach Mike Houston Radio Show. Welcome back. Last segment of the show. And we have a few other things to talk about before the end of the program here today. Want to get back to Furman in just a couple of moments here. But one thing that I had intended to say when we had this show play this evening was that your strength coach at the school, Coach, had some personal tragedy this week, and I personally wanted to tell Donnell Boucher that he's in our thoughts and prayers for the things that he is enduring and his family is enduring this week. And so a terrible circumstance there.
It's been a tough week, for that family, and they had a last Saturday night, Sunday morning, as we're traveling back, his family's home in Massachusetts burned down. His mom did make it out. His uncle and his grandmother did not. And so he's actually leaving tomorrow morning and flying up, and the funeral is Friday night. And so certainly that family's going through a tough time right now with the loss of two family members, and then with his mother and the rest of his family being displaced from their home. Yeah. So it's a tough time right now for them.
It has been a rough year. There's no question about that. And so we certainly want publicly for him to know that we're thinking about him and his entire family as they work their way through a very difficult situation this week. on the upper East Coast. And so the Furman game is next for the Citadel Bulldogs, trying to go to 4-0 in league play before coming home to play a couple of ball games in a row against Mercer and VMI. Dominique Allen, we talked about him earlier with 166 yards. He has been nominated by the American Sports Network for their National Offensive Player of the Week award. It is something that is voted on.
Right.
And so we understand that he is doing well in the voting as of right now, but we need your votes. You can vote every day, and everybody has multiple devices and email addresses and such, so maybe you can vote early and often at americansportsnet.com. That is how you can get him over the top for an award that he certainly earned, in my opinion, this week.
Yeah, and that's, one of the things that comes along with winning is you do get accolades, and we try very hard not to dwell on that very much in the locker room or in the meeting rooms or around the program, because the personal accolades, they will come with the success of the team, but we really try to keep it team-oriented with everything we're doing. But, certainly congratulations to Dom for the great weekend. I do hope he can end up, receiving this honor, but we'll celebrate all those individual awards at the end of the year.
Could be a really long list at the banquet. That's great, though. We'll have a chance to go over those. But and to hear him speak, he is saying a lot of the same things you just said, which is a good thing. And he is compartmentalizing the awards and talking about team, which is the way you want him to talk.
Right. And then you have to do that, especially with our style of offense and with what we believe in defensively. We believe very much in unity, and I think that's one of the strengths of our program. It's something I think we've grown a lot in over the last year, is just the belief and accountability to each other, where they trust each other. They feel an accountability to their guy sitting next to them or playing next to them and playing on the other side of the ball. So, and I think that will carry you through tough times. That'll carry you a long way. That'll carry you, when you get down and you've got to come back. That's what you really have to rely on.
The guys on defense really don't want to be on the field that long, but if you didn't know anything about football, you might misunderstand that, but they really do want to get off as quickly as they possibly can. And I know a lot of coaches also say, you guys, you can get off the field anytime you want to, and your guys are getting off the field and turning it back over to the offense.
Well, and you hope you get off the field that way. I mean, there's two ways you can get off the field. You can get off the field after the other team scores, or you can get off the field after forcing a 3-and-out or a turnover or something like that. So certainly we're having a lot more success with the latter this year than we did a year ago, and the more possessions you give our offense, obviously the more success we're going to have on that side of the ball.
A little more about Furman, if I remember correctly, kicker, kickoff, punter, same guy.
Boy, he is talented too. I mean, I think he is a great weapon for them. He has obviously the great leg, as evidenced by the 55-yarder against UCF. But he is a very good punter also. They run a lot of different formations, trying to get good coverage. So I think he is a big asset in the game. And, of course, I feel like our specialists, Will and Eric, are doing a great job this year too. So that could be another big factor Saturday.
Yeah, definitely so, because as we mentioned, only 2 times did Samford get the opportunity to return, and the Bulldogs did score a lot of points and were kicking off an awful lot of times, and so limited that in that regard. You got Washington back in there in the second half of your ball game, and again, we talked about it in relative terms to your 5-star system, but you had 1 penalty in that ball game for 5 yards.
Yeah, we had a second called, but they declined it. But really, the only penalty we had was on the next to last play of the game, and Alex Glover flinched when we were going on 2 there on our last drive and got called for a false start, and that was the only recorded penalty in the ball game.
Very impressive, and time of possession was to your advantage as well. Turnovers have been something that you've been forcing. We mentioned you were +4 there, but plus, I think you're +4 for the season too in terms of the turnovers.
Doing a real good job with that. And it's something, again, we've really hammered since last year, because I thought we did a very poor job with it a year ago. So I think it's something that it's been contagious, with our defense, the way we've been able to force those. So hopefully we're able to do that on Saturday, because obviously that will translate to success.
Not a very long trip either. That's like a 3-hour trip up to Furman. So it's close. You'll get back at a decent hour on Saturday too, and as will all the fans. And man, it sounds like a bunch are going.
Yeah, it is. We're actually the kids are going to go to class Friday morning, which they're not real excited about. So, but I thought it was good to maybe get them in a little bit of a routine there Friday before we left. So they're going to go to some of their early morning classes before we take off. But it'll be a good trip up and back, and interstate the whole way. And we have a large contingency of alumni in the Greenville area. It's our largest club outside of the Charleston area, so a lot of those people will be there on Saturday.
No doubt. I've seen that group and have been in front of that group before. They certainly are very active and very numerous. When Citadel baseball played a series up at Furman over a weekend back in the spring, lots of Citadel fans in the house for that one as well. So that's exciting. And as usual in league play, you are expecting it to be tight.
Yeah, I am, and it's just, in games like this, and with the kind of ball club they've got, they've got a lot of good players. They are well coached. They're playing well coming into the Chattanooga game. I'm sure they've been able to rebound the last 2 weeks. So I really expect it to be a good ball game and a tight one.
All right, Coach. Thanks very much. Appreciate
Thanks a lot. Thanks to everybody that came out, all the alums. Go Bulldogs.
Thank you, Coach. For Coach Mike Houston, I'm Mike Legg. Thanks for joining us this evening on the Head Coach Mike Houston radio show. We'll be back again next Wednesday night on the air on Saturday at 11:30 for a 1:30 kickoff against the Furman Paladins on the road. For Barry Daniels in our studio, I'm Mike Legg. Thanks so very much for listening in this evening, and good night and go Bulldogs.